Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Today's topic is those darn DPAs. Sounds so negative. There are a lot of objections and misconceptions about down payment assistance programs on the buyer side, the lender side, the listing agent side, the selling agent side. What we want to do is address them, acknowledge them, and then talk about some best practices to overcome those obstacles and remove those obstacles from the path of home ownership for more potential home buyers, but also for you guys as the professionals that are fostering these buyers to home ownership or shepherding them to home ownership. So with that, we are recording this webinar today. We will send it out to you after the event. My name is Sean Moss with Down Payment Resource. And we also have several members of our team in the background. They are going to be answering questions as we go. So we encourage you to use the Zoom Q&A feature and throw your questions in there, comments, reactions. If you have worked with a client recently that used the DPA, we'd love to hear that story. Our marketing team is here. They're in the background as well. So if you've got a story like that, maybe we could do a blog post or some sort of case study. We would love that opportunity. And chime in too about how you've overcome some of these obstacles and challenges while I discuss the state of down payment assistance and where we stand today with DPAs. Then the crux of this webinar is acknowledging and then breaking down the top 5 DPA obstacles and solutions to them. We'll then talk about next steps and best practices as we go and wrap it up at the end, likewise with some next steps and best practices. Disclaimer, this webinar was originally designed about a year ago to be presented in partnership with a realtor and or loan officer or group of them. We've done several versions of this webinar. We have always had realtors and loan officers with us who we were interviewing, and they were directly addressing these obstacles and the solutions that they've put in place. So that said, this webinar has been so popular that we wanted to build it into our regular rotation. So we don't have a panel with us today, but what we are presenting to you is the feedback, the best practices, the lessons learned from your peers around the country that are working with first-time home buyers, working with down payment assistance programs, navigating bidding wars and so forth with down payment assistance. So you're hearing from your peers, even though I'm the one providing it to you. With that, let me just briefly introduce Down Payment Resource and what we do. We are a national database of all of the homebuyer assistance programs available across the country for down payment help, closing cost help, tax credits, affordable first mortgages, and more. There are 2,200 some programs around the country. There is literally help in every market. We'll get to that in a moment. And ultimately, we're here to help you connect homebuyers to down payment assistance or other opportunities or programs that are available for them to be able to take advantage of home ownership potentially sooner than they thought possible. In order to do that, we integrate with and partner with multiple listing services around the country. We integrate down payment assistance information into their property listing data. Many of you today are members of one of our MLS partners. We'll show you who they are because you also have some cool and unique tools available to you as part of our partnership with MLSs around the country. We also have a subscription tool for agents and loan officers who wish to incorporate down payment assistance into their marketing and are not a member of one of our MLS partners. And then for lenders, we have enterprise tools for lenders to find and review and monitor and track and understand and better manage down payment assistance programs. So that's a quick overview of what we do, but you can imagine at our hearts or in our hearts and at our core, our mission and our vision is to make sure that every aspiring home buyer understands all of their down payment options and that the professionals who serve them, those of you on the webinar today, have the tools and resources and knowledge and best practices that you need to be able to serve those buyers. Ultimately, we want to help you connect home buyers to the down payment help that they need. So let's talk a little bit about the state of down payment assistance first. Of the 2,200 plus programs around the country, 73% of them are some form of down payment and or closing cost assistance. I'm going to come back to that for a moment, but The rest of those programs are made up of mortgage credit certificates, which are tax credits, affordable first mortgage programs, which can offer below market interest rates, higher LTV financing, lower mortgage insurance pricing, and typically come from your state or perhaps local housing finance agencies. And then there are some other less common programs, for example, housing choice purchase vouchers, matched savings programs, and so forth. The crux of what we're talking about, though, and the majority of the programs available in any given market are going to be down payment and closing cost assistance. Of all of those programs, 63% of them have deferred payments, meaning you get the down payment assistance at closing, but there is no immediate monthly payment. 43% of those down payment assistance programs are also forgivable, meaning that at some point in the future or over time, that down payment assistance is forgiven, becoming essentially a grant over time. And then 38% of all down payment and closing cost assistance programs both defer the payments and are forgivable in part or in full. And then, of course, you have true grants, which is a gift at closing. And then, yes, there are some down payment assistance programs that do come with repayment terms. There are obviously many different types of down payment assistance. We track and monitor all of those details so that when you, your professional partners, or your clients, your home buying clients, are using down payment resource, you're seeing current up-to-date information about each and every one of those home buyer opportunities. Now, who offers these programs? I already mentioned that every state has a state housing finance agency who offers typically affordable first mortgages and down payment and closing cost help, and sometimes even tax credits statewide. For that reason, there literally is no market in the country that doesn't have some form of homebuyer assistance available. But then you also have local housing finance agencies. You have cities or counties or municipalities that may offer some form of homebuyer assistance. Employers may offer down payment assistance or sponsor a DPA to help recruit or retain employees. There are nonprofits, housing-related nonprofits all over the country that, in addition to providing valuable services like housing counseling and homebuyer education, also may provide down payment or closing cost assistance. We have the Federal Home Loan Bank network across the country providing funds for down payment assistance to member banks. There are community development financial institutions, or CDFIs, all over the country. There are many local housing authorities, community land trusts, and more. So there are all kinds of programs, and they come from all manner of government, quasi-government, municipal, and nonprofit organizations as well. And again, we track and monitor all of these details and present them back to you simply and easily in any part of our down payment resource platform. Now, what's going on with down payment assistance currently? Every state housing finance agency stayed open over the last couple of years through COVID and beyond. They remain open today. And in fact, most state housing finance agencies had record years in 2020, which, by the way, is all purchase business. So I know we probably have some loan officers with us today as well. We're not mixing refi business into that over the last couple of years. That is down payment assistance purchase transactions happening at record volumes, despite some of the obstacles and misperceptions we're going to talk about today. And that trend continued through 2021 for a lot of state housing finance agencies, still seeing record purchase volume and doing DPA with it. In addition, we continue to see new state and local programs launching in markets all over the country. In fact, 84% of all programs are currently funded and active today. And homebuyer education is increasingly being done online, which has, quite frankly, allowed a lot of DPA providers to stay open over the last 2 years, because that was typically kind of an in-person requirement. But more and more, there are online options to meet that homebuyer education class requirement that most homebuyers must do before they can qualify for down payment assistance. We're going to talk about that here in a moment. But suffice it to say, down payment assistance is still available. It's not going away. And if you've heard otherwise, quite frankly, you were misinformed. So let's dig in. What are the top 5 obstacles that we have been hearing and then we'll break them down, acknowledge the obstacle, and discuss solutions. That's the crux of today's webinar. Now, these might sound familiar, and that's why we pulled them out, quite frankly, is to address the top issues that we're hearing and that your peers are hearing and reporting to us, and then break them down. So the first one we'll cover is inventory. We all know that inventory is limited and unaffordable. We are not here to regurgitate the obvious, but we're here to acknowledge the obvious and then discuss solutions, perhaps through a new lens or a more creative lens. Number two, there's a lot of confusion among potential buyers about down payment requirements, meaning potential home buyers are often sidelining themselves or just giving up on the idea of buying a home because they don't understand how much they have to have as a down payment. We'll talk about that as well, in the 20% myth, for example. Number three, sellers are refusing contracts with down payment assistance, or perhaps even FHA or VA financing. It's a legitimate obstacle. It's definitely happening all over the country. We don't think it's necessarily as rampant as you might hear in the news, but we are going to talk about it and discuss ways around it. Down payment assistance extends the transaction or causes delays. That's a misperception. We're going to tackle that. And then number five, establishing agent and loan officer partnerships. Now, that's not necessarily an obstacle, except when it's not happening the way that it should be. So we're going to talk about that as well. So with that, I want to dive into the first obstacle here. Inventory is limited and or unaffordable. This is true. Okay, there's no way around this. So what's the problem? Historically low inventory, days on market is decreasing, high demand is driving up home prices. We now have interest rates increasing and likely to go up even further. We just saw this week, the Fed intends to raise rates. So, and that will be likely the first of several to come in the near future. All of this means that buyers are struggling to compete. Of course, that obviously means financing buyers are struggling more to compete with cash buyers. We have institutional buyers and so forth. So we've acknowledged the problem. Everyone knows about the problem, right? Let's talk about potential solutions. What are we hearing around the country? What are we hearing from your peers that can help us overcome these obstacles? Consider alternatives to the open market. For example, agency owned or municipality owned properties. There are still, believe it or not, REO inventory out there that maybe need a little TLC, and we'll talk about that in a sec, but when combined with down payment assistance could become great affordable options for first-time home buyers. There are also community land trusts in many of your markets. Check them out. That offers a very unique affordable option for buyers in that they are purchasing the structure, the home, but not the land on it, so they don't have to pay that cost. Now, of course, they're not going to gain the same kind of appreciation that you might, but they're going to get into a home and be a homeowner, and they're going to start that long-term wealth building exercise. There may be homes that need minor repairs that may give buyers the opportunity to compete and to win a bid and afford a home that they can make their own. Now, yes, we're hearing some about buyers' remorse and so forth for buying homes that need repairs, but here's the thing. If we can find properties that maybe didn't get sold in the first, honestly, week or two, that's the pace in a lot of markets right now, then what was it? What was it about that property? Probably not that it had a hole in the roof, right? But could have just needed a little cosmetic help, TLC. Maybe there are some rehab or repair options that could be coupled with down payment assistance, but that's an outlet for additional inventory. Coming soon properties, what's coming down the pike? Do you have buyers lined up that are pre-qualified and ready to go? They've got their cash to close worked out and so forth. Those could present opportunities as well. Manufactured homes. A lot of down payment assistance programs, increasingly more of them over the last couple of years, allow manufactured housing. So if we think about the quality and the nature of construction nowadays, we hear more and more about manufactured homes, modular homes, looking like, and feeling just like any other stick-built home, for example. There's huge manufactured inventory out there that could be tapped, and there are increasingly more down payment assistance program providers that allow manufactured homes. So those are some examples, right? But we also know when it comes to inventory that there's sort of the buyer mindset. We need to counsel buyers about what this process is going to be like, what the competition is going to look like. We also need to make sure that we do the right things up front to prevent delays. So for example, make sure they get pre-approved. Make sure they take their homebuyer education class early. There's no reason to wait on that homebuyer education class because one, they're going to get a certificate of completion that's probably good for a year. So no reason to wait to take the class. Two, they're going to be a better educated client for you. And then three, they're going to learn a whole lot about not just the home buying process, but home ownership. And that's increasingly important too. We want to make sure that we're creating opportunities for sustainable home ownership. So think about partnering with housing counselors to help incubate and prepare new buyers. Build your pipeline stronger, build it bigger over time by thinking not just about this month, but next quarter's pipeline. Who are the buyers that are getting ready, and make sure that they're doing the things they need to do to be ready to strike on a contract when they're pre-approved, they're ready to go, all of their ducks are in a row, and they can aggressively compete. And then lastly, we would just point out that buyers need to know they're going to have to be patient. They're going to have to be calculated in this effort. They're going to potentially have to narrow down their list of must-haves for their new home. Not that we want to set them up for a buyer's remorse situation, right? But quite frankly, things are just moving so fast right now that you almost can't wait until that perfect home comes about. They've got to have a list of their must-haves, and they've got to be realistic about that. So even though we have a shortage of inventory, part of this is just mindset, right? Making sure that we get the mindset of the consumer adjusted so that they understand the competition they're going to face and they're realistic about the things that they have to have. And they need to be discussing that candidly with you as they navigate the market and find their property. So that's a brief overview of inventory and some of the alternative paths to a home that we can be thinking about. And of course, not everything is on the slide here, I'm giving you a lot of examples that aren't necessarily right in front of us, but hopefully that helps kind of muster up some unique ideas. Think about the other alternatives in your market. Are there local housing agencies that might own some properties? Does the municipality have any properties they own? Land trusts, manufactured homes. Think about all these things, and hopefully that helps open some doors to additional inventory options. Now, let's talk about the confusion out there about down payment requirements. What's the problem? We've done surveys. We've seen survey after survey from other reputable folks in the industry, economists and so forth, identifying the fact that prospective homebuyers think they need way more or way bigger down payments than is actually required to purchase a home. For example, we did a study with, or we were part of a study with the Urban Institute, and this was in 2018, but this still festers today. Part of that survey about barriers to accessing home ownership included surveying prospective homebuyers. And we found that 65% of prospective homebuyers, these were millennial renters being surveyed, 65% of them thought they needed at least 15 or 20% as a down payment. We all know that's just patently false, right? Yeah, 20% is the magic number to avoid MI, but that's not the magic number to buy a house. The problem isn't that we know it. The problem is that consumers don't know that. We need to make sure they understand that they can do an FHA loan with 3.5% down. There are 3% and 5% down conventional options out there. Down payment assistance can help them get to those LTVs and help them lower their monthly payments. But we also found in that same survey that more than 3/4 of those renters surveyed had little or no familiarity with low down payment programs. Not DPAs, right? But just FHA loans, conventional loans, VA loans at no money down if you're a qualified veteran, USDA loans at 0 down if you're buying a qualified property. So home buyers aren't familiar with those programs. They're also certainly not familiar with down payment assistance or other industry terms. They're not familiar with down payment requirements. And millions, therefore, of eligible home buyers, of otherwise credit and income eligible home buyers, sideline themselves. So again, We got to make sure that consumers are getting marketing messages from us that combat that 20% down myth and that let them know that there is hope, there is a path, there are opportunities, there are programs that can help. And by the way, you don't have to have 20% down, 3.5, 5%. That will do. So what can we do? Obviously combat those misperceptions, especially the 20% down myth. Take a look at your marketing messages and think about the concerns that or misperceptions that potential buyers experience or believe in. They think they need 20% down. They don't understand down payment requirements. They don't know that down payment assistance programs are out there. We also, especially loan officers, need to now be thinking about qualifying ratios. Student loan forbearance is coming to an end here. We're just weeks away from that. That's going to create yet more stress on qualifying ratios. These are the things that consumers face, whether or not they realize it. We need to make sure that our marketing messages and our educational efforts and our outreach efforts speak to those problems and offer solutions, put solutions in front of those buyers to, first of all, convince them not to give up on home ownership, but also to show them how close they may actually be. With that said, we realize that down payment assistance may be outside your bubble for a lot of people. And you know what? If you want to carve out new business, if you want to chase down a growth opportunity or open up a new channel, a new line of business or referrals, get outside your bubble. I mean, honestly, you got to educate yourself about the down payment programs that are out there. Realtors, you don't have to be experts, but understand enough about the DPAs that are in your market and their income and purchase price limits and where they're available and how many dollars you can get. And loan officers, the most common question we get, we're going to get it today. I'll check the chat. We're probably already getting it. Most common question we get from real estate agents is, how do I find a loan officer that can help me with down payment assistance programs? You got to get the word out, loan officers. Your real estate partners and peers in your market, they need your help. If you offer down payment assistance programs, you have got to be out there telling real estate agents so that they know who to go to when those opportunities arise. With all that said, while you're educating yourself about down payment assistance programs, expose those programs to your clients. Tell them about the benefits of these programs. Tell them about a specific program. Hey, you can go to program ABC and get XYZ number of dollars for down payment help. And we can talk now about how close you might be to home ownership. Now, conversely, if you're not willing to do a little bit of research and educate yourself about down payment assistance, that's fine. Stay in your lane, consult with your other peers and your loan officer partners, and find someone to refer those people to. There's still creditworthy buyers that are income and credit qualified and just need a little help. But hopefully you can at least refer them out to somebody or build a partnership with others, maybe in your brokerage or with a loan officer that can help those clients and carve out a path forward for them. Someone else will be building their pipeline. But again, if you don't want to get outside your bubble, that's fine. Refer it out to somebody. If you are willing to get outside your bubble a little bit, leverage the tools and resources that you have, not just your peers and not just your loan officer partners, if you're a real estate agent, but downpaymentresource.com. We track and monitor every program across the country, whether it's state, county, city, nonprofit, and so forth. Talk to your local DPA providers. Talk to your state housing finance agencies. They often provide educational resources and events, networking opportunities, and so forth. Maybe even attend a homebuyer education class, perhaps with a client. That would be a great experience for them. And listen to the message, listen to the content, and absorb that into your own marketing and outreach. Now, number 3, sellers refuse contracts with down payment assistance and perhaps even FHA or VA, government financing. We know that a lot of sellers now want to see conventional financing and certainly would love a cash offer, right? We think, though, that part of the problem here is that sellers and listing agents that represent them are often misinformed about down payment assistance requirements and timelines, or a bad past experience with a down payment assistance program can sour their current attitude and their amenability to down payment assistance. We also know that contract offers don't frame DPAs as a value add. For example, if you're using a down payment assistance program that allows that buyer to slip through FHA into conventional financing, lowering their upfront mortgage insurance, lowering their monthly mortgage insurance, opening up conventional appraisal, covering closing costs. These are all benefits that accrue to the seller as well. And then, of course, we don't need to over disclose. Disclose what you have to in these contract offers, but don't over disclose. There's, let's not tell the seller any more than we need to, quite frankly. And then sellers erroneously fear delayed closings. Now, again, so sellers and agents may have bad past experiences, may fear delayed closings. Here's what we really think. The listing agent is in the seller's ear. And I'm not pointing fingers, right? That's not the point here. But listing agents or sellers agents, when you're representing a buyer, let's educate those that are representing the seller and make sure that not only the agent, but the loan officer is leveraging their reputation as a DPA expert. So again, loan officer is on with us today. Are you picking up the phone and talking to your borrower and their agent and letting them know that you're happy to call the seller, call the listing agent, let them know that listing agent that you are a DPA expert, that you do close these DPA transactions in the same amount of time as any other transaction, which, by the way, happens all the time. We hear it from loan officers. That's why it's in this presentation. When we do this webinar with loan officers, the ones that are good at DPAs, they outright tell us, I'll close a DPA in the same amount of time as if you were putting 20% down. So you've got to let the seller know, let the listing agent know that. Don't fear an emotional plea. I won't get too into that. There's a lot going on with, for example, love letters and so forth right now. We're not going to get into that, but if there's an opportunity, pleading for the home is, let's just say, an opportunity. I'll leave it at that because there's some things that are up in the air. But leverage the value of a down payment program. So I mentioned if it covers closing costs, that's higher net proceeds for the seller. That's one thing the buyer can leverage to compete with their bids. I don't know that many buyers are even trying to ask for closing costs to get covered these days. Nonetheless, if you've got it covered by a down payment assistance program, leverage that. And then, of course, I mentioned the path to conventional financing. If, let's say, your buyer's got 2%, 2.5%, 3% saved, and they've got to cover a little bit more down payment plus closing costs. What if they got $10,000, $15,000 in down payment assistance? Is that enough to get them to 5% down conventional? Probably, and still have more for closing costs. That's the kind of value that a down payment assistance program can provide. And then back to the point about agents and loan officers leveraging their reputation. What the seller really needs, what the listing agent really needs, is assurance that the deal will get done and done on time, right? If we do all the things up front that need to get done, get pre-qualified, have a candid conversation with the borrower about cash to close, where is it coming from, is there a shortage, look at down payment assistance options, make sure you understand the requirements and timeline for the program you're going to use, and then those things can prevent avoidable delays. Commit to those appropriate timelines, whatever they might be, and then don't over disclose more than you have to about financing. We think those things can go a long way. And we think that because we hear it from your peers toward mitigating concerns about a contract offer that includes down payment assistance or government financing, even, for that matter. Now, delays. Number 4, the DPA is going to extend or delay or prolong my transaction. What's the problem here? First of all, let's just be fair. Anything can cause a delay, not just the down payment assistance program. It's always easy to blame the down payment assistance program because it's an obvious sort of outlier, another layer of complexity. Perhaps the DPA came up because cash to close wasn't fully investigated or verified up front, or became an issue during the transaction. That is not the fault of the down payment assistance program. And again, not pointing fingers, but loan officers, realtors, if we're not investigating cash to close and verifying all that up front, that's going to cause a delay no matter what. If we found a DPA as a solution, That's a solution to the problem. It's not the problem, right? Down payment assistance applications were started later in the process. That's another common delay. Again, not the fault of the DPA, but that application process with the DPA needs to start when the mortgage application starts. They should be running in parallel. The homebuyer education class was not completed on time. Again, not the fault of the DPA. Yes, it's required to access that down payment assistance program typically, but there's no reason to wait on the homebuyer education requirement. That should be done before they're pre-approved. There's no reason for that to be happening after a buyer is pre-approved. Unless, of course, you've identified a DPA, but then they can almost always take that class online. So again, there's no reason for a delay because of the homebuyer education class. What we find is when you really dig in, a lot of transactions are delayed when a DPA is involved because of miscommunication or lack of communication among other parties. Not to mention title issues, appraisal issues, insurance issues, and all the other, plethora of things that could potentially go wrong. So, point is, let's not blame the DPA just because there's a DPA. What's the actual delay? What's the actual problem? What can we do? Well, we just hit on some of those things, but make sure you know the down payment assistance program that you're using. And for example, loan officers, you may offer, 3, 4, 5, 10 different DPA programs, but each one is, as you know, going to be a little bit different, potentially very different. They may come with certain application procedures, certain review periods where the down payment assistance organization or provider wants to review income calculations or review the 1003 or whatever it might be. They may come with, different timelines. We just need to understand that, right? We just need to understand that, get all the things done up front that can be done, anything short of underwriting the property, how much of that can be done up front, and then make sure that everyone understands the proper expectations regarding timeline and action items or homework. And then, of course, we already mentioned it, do homebuyer education early. Those certificates are almost universally good for a year. So honestly, if you have potential buyers right now and you think that they may benefit from the value of a down payment assistance program, or you think they may need one, or if they had one, they could be a buyer next month instead of, next quarter, then go ahead and have them take the homebuyer education class. Then you've got the, one of the primary unique requirements out of the way. You've gotten it done early, and they have plenty of time to search for a home. Ensure other things are done in a timely manner. For example, ordering the appraisal, getting that back, getting that approved, any inspections, getting insurance coverages set, coordinating title, the seller, the lender, and everybody else. So again, there are a lot of reasons that a transaction can be delayed, even when a down payment assistance program is involved. But realtors, real estate agents, if you are working with a loan officer who is savvy with down payment assistance programs, even if it's just 1 or 2 in their market, if they're good at it, then they're going to be able to close those in the same amount of time as anything else. And those are the partners that you need, and they need to be in communication with everybody else involved. Now, speaking of partnerships, we call this an obstacle because we think there are some gaps in agent LO partnerships right now. So what's the problem? We can tell you for a fact that every single training we do for real estate agents, the first and the most frequent question we get is, how do I find a loan officer that can help me with DPAs? So agents are literally and daily having a hard time finding loan officers that offer down payment assistance and that want to earn that first-time homebuyer business from these agents who want that help and have those clients, and that are good at down payment assistance transactions. The other side of the problem is many loan officers are not promoting their DPA expertise. They're not highlighting the down payment assistance programs that they offer, and they're not active in their communities such that they're getting that message to the right referral partners, namely realtors and brokers that are out there working with these buyers that need these programs. So we're going to break this down for agents and for loan officers. Agents, what can you do? Talk to your current loan officer partners. That's the first thing to do. Ask them, which down payment assistance programs do you offer? Maybe that loan officer hasn't done one recently, but the company has a number of options available. Or Maybe they do down payment assistance and it just hadn't come up in conversation because you hadn't brought that kind of deal to them. Nonetheless, agents talk to your current loan officer partners about the down payment programs they offer and put it on the table. What do you offer? Are they willing to go onboard some down payment assistance programs, or are they willing to go see which programs their company offers and go learn about them? Ask your broker. Ask your broker if they have any recommendations for a loan officer or a lender that does DPA business, does DPA programs well. Also, agents, educate yourself. I mentioned this earlier about even just a small few, maybe just one, but pick 1, 2, 3 down payment assistance programs in your market and read their marketing material. Maybe read some of their guidelines, check out their website, maybe even give them a call and talk to that DPA provider. Attend a homebuyer education course. We mentioned that earlier, to learn, what's being taught in that class and how can I absorb that into my own marketing, my own outreach, my own education, my own social engagement, my own email campaigns, my website, and so on, right? Seek out new loan officer partnerships if you have to, and don't be afraid to test their knowledge. If you've read up on a couple of down payment assistance programs, give them a quick test and make sure that they're at least aware of the same requirements as you are, and they understand how to set expectations and what FICO and credit should look like in the timeline. How do you calculate income? Is it household income or applicant income? Things like that. And court some of those LOs that teach homebuyer education classes. If you're looking for new loan officer partners, then look to loan officers that teach those first-time homebuyer classes, that teach those homebuyer fairs and events like that. They're obviously savvy with DPAs and obviously interested in that business. I already mentioned talk to DPA providers about their programs to learn them, but also ask them who their top producing lenders are. If you call a state or local down payment assistance provider and ask them who their top loan officers are, they may even have a published list that you can look at and say, okay, well, these folks clearly do a lot of down payment assistance volume. They do it well. They keep getting more of that business and they close it. They close it all, right? Every one of those buyers that loan officer closed had a contract bid and won. And then they got their down payment assistance and they closed and they bought their home. And then lastly, court other agents that list properties where down payment assistance is used. Who among your peers are listing and selling properties that are affordable, with which down payment assistance might be used? Can you get on their mailing list? We mentioned coming soon listings earlier. That's a great way to get clued into what might be coming down the pike from other agents that are selling in that inventory band, if you will, and stay in contact with them, build those relationships. So hopefully that helps give you some ideas, right? We obviously can't get through everything today, but hopefully that gives you some ideas of some of the things you can do to establish better loan officer partnerships. So let's round it out with loan officers. What can you do? Become DPA subject matter experts. There is massive demand for help with down payment assistance programs. If you're looking for purchase business, if you want to grow your pipeline, if you want to expand your horizons, this is a way to do it. Attend a DPA provider's training course. Even if it's not required, go to one, spend an hour, 2 hours going through their training to learn the program, learn the language, learn the nuances of their DPA at least, and then incorporate that into your marketing and your outreach, certainly to agents, if not even potential borrowers as well. Work with your product development staff. So if you're a loan officer, go to your product development team and ask them, first of all, which DPAs do we have available to us now? But then ask them what else is available in my market. Or if you've got some leads on other DPA programs in your market, or you find one on downpaymentresource.com, ask them what it takes to onboard that program and make it available to you for, by extension, your realtor partners, and then ultimately the buyer. Host virtual seminars. Your state and local housing finance agencies and other DPA providers, they may well have all kinds of educational and networking events, more increasingly in person now, that you could attend or host or even present at and grow your network that way, both your referral network as well as your borrower network. Be active in your community. All of this suggests activity in the community, right? And then with agents, so loan officers, craft an intake strategy with agent partners. How are you, or what, if anything, are you doing differently or new for buyers that are using down payment assistance? Does your agent understand the process? Is there anything they need to know or collect or ask of these potential buyers if we think there's going to be a down payment assistance program? So again, loan officers, I can't stress enough, the most common question we get from real estate agents literally every day for years, and especially the last 1 or 2 years, is how do I find a loan officer that can help me with DPAs? You got to get the word out. All right, so let's give you a few solutions here just to kind of wrap things up. Explore creative inventory alternatives. We gave you several solutions, but run with them. See what you can muster up in your market, whether it's community land trusts, REO properties, what's not getting sold in the first week or two, and why. What do those properties look like? You may be surprised at what you find. You don't need 20% down. We need to make sure consumers know they do not have to have 20% down to buy a home. It's great if you have it and you can avoid MI. Obviously, you're not talking about down payment assistance at that point. So let's make sure that the buyers who think that are met with the correct information: 3.5%, 5% down. If you're a veteran, if you're buying a rural property, there may be exceptions to that. And then number 3, leverage the value of a DPA. So you don't need 20% down, but you could go from 2 to 5 with the presence of a down payment assistance program, and maybe cover closing costs as well. The DPA too also lowers, while lowering the LTV, lowers the principal and interest and tax, PITI, right? Lowers the monthly payment. That lowers the qualifying ratios. If you can get a better mortgage or rate or mortgage insurance pricing, all of that is going to further reduce qualifying ratios. So leverage the value of those DPAs. Number 4, set buyer expectations and prepare early. Make sure they know if they have to take a class. Make sure they know what documentation to get you. Make sure they're getting it to you. Don't go write a contract until cash to close is fully investigated, the DPA is in place, and everybody knows what they have to do. And then create innovative agent LO partnerships. So agents, let LOs know what you need. LOs, I think the burden here is on you. Agents need help. They'll do the research on DPAs, but they need a loan officer who's going to help them. You got to get the word out. I've probably said that too many times, but nonetheless, it's the most popular question we get. And after all of that, remember too that a DPA customer is a customer for life. If you help a first-time home buyer into a house and you do that with a down payment assistance program, they're going to refer their peers to you. They're going to refinance with you. They're going to come back to you if you're a real estate agent when they buy their next home. DPA customers are customers for life. If you are a member of any of these MLSs, you have full access to our entire suite of down payment resource MLS tools. That includes DPA data integrated into your listings. You'll see a little $sign on the listing views for agents and your clients that indicates there is down payment assistance available. And you also have Down Payment Connect for free as a member of any of these MLSs. If you do not see your MLS here, while we do have several more coming right now, you can go to downpaymentresource.com/DPC, and you can subscribe to Down Payment Connect, which allows you to get your own unique landing page where a consumer can come search for down payment help where they want to buy a home. And you generate leads off of that page as they complete those searches. It comes with marketing tools. It comes with social media training, graphics packages, customizable flyers in English and Spanish. Again, all of which you have for free if you're a member of one of our MLS partners. But loan officers, there's also a version for you. It gives you a detailed directory of all of the programs across your state or states. This tool is licensed by state if you're subscribing to it. You also have control as a loan officer over which programs display to consumers so that you can only show them company approved or bank approved DPAs. And you have comparison tools to help find, kind of do some back end research and help find the right program for new clients. So if you're not a member of one of these MLS partners. And we do have more coming soon, so we'll be announcing those in the coming weeks. Then you can go to downpaymentresource.com/DPC and get Down Payment Connect yourself. And lastly, we have a group of about 9,000 down payment insiders on Facebook. The URL is at the bottom here. We encourage you to join this group. There are real estate professionals and loan officers and DPA providers and housing counselors actively participating in this group, engaging in dialogue about working with first-time home buyers, the successes and challenges and obstacles they faced, solutions they came up with. Feel free to join and listen in, or join and engage and share your story. So with that, we're going to give a few minutes here for Q&A, and I'm going to leave our contact information up on the screen. Mel, if you can kind of queue up any questions, but if you have questions afterwards, we will send a recording of this webinar out. You can reach out to us at info@downpaymentresource.com. And if you're not a member of one of our MLS partners, you can go subscribe to Down Payment Connect at downpaymentresource.com/DPC. So with that, Mel, you want to start us off with Q&A? Any themes we need to address?
Yes, not surprisingly, it's something that is fantastic that's been going on in chat is a ton of networking, people asking for loan officer contact information. So like you said in the presentation, Sean, that is the most common question we get is how to find loan officers that do DPA. Wanted to see though, if really quick, you'll cover again, we're trying our best, but the chat's pretty fast hitting. Cover again where they can find or good places to find loan officers that do DPA, because we have people asking to be sent a list of approved loan officers. So
yeah, sure. So let's go back to that slide. So let's kind of run back through this from the top, and I'll do a quick overview, but you've got most of what you need on the slide here. First of all, talk to your current loan officer partners, see what they offer. Maybe it hasn't come up. Next, go to your broker, see if they have any recommendations, or your peers, right? If there's anybody else in your brokerage, or maybe your broker, they may know a lender or a loan officer that does DPA. Talk to the DPA providers themselves. Your state housing finance agency will probably have a list on their website of who the participating lenders are for their program. They may also likely have a top producer list. Those are the loan officers that do the most volume with that program, so clearly are good at it and want the business. And then you can always call any other DPA provider and ask them who their best lenders are. And then lastly, I guess what's not mentioned here is you can go to downpaymentresource.com and do a search and look. One of the details we give you for any program in your results is who the lenders are that participate in that program. So there are several ways that you can go about finding a loan officer. Loan officers, case in point, first question that came up, right? What else?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I've had a couple of questions, and Veronica's been helping me answer too, so she may have some themes, but I've had a couple of questions about multifamily properties and wanting to know if you can get down payment assistance for a multifamily property.
Yes, not universally, but a lot of programs will allow duplex, triplex, or quadplex. It does depend on the program, and that's one of the that's a reason to use Down Payment Resource within your MLS if you're with one of our MLS partners, which I'll put on the screen, or go to downpaymentresource.com and you can find programs in your area, but you can also search by multifamily. So you don't have to do a single family search on our website. Or, by the way, ask your loan officer because they'll know.
Thanks, Sean. We actually had a good question from Ruth. She says she's a realtor and going to be becoming a loan officer in the next couple of weeks and wants to make sure she can be, or wants to know how she can be well informed about DPAs.
Ruth, talk to your office or on the mortgage side. Talk to your branch or whomever you can talk to there. Find out what down payment assistance programs they already offer, and then I would start there because they're already in the door at your company. And those are the ones that are already available. And then, of course, you can find more at downpaymentresource.com and see what's available to you. And then read up on them. Read read the marketing material. Maybe if they've got like a, kind of a one pager, I mean, at least get the basics, right? And then you can always figure out which ones you need to dig into most from there.
Thanks, Sean. One more question in chat wants to know if we have any courses or other resources that teach more about what DPA is, like the types of programs available, requirements, etc.
We do. So our standard webinar rotation includes DPA 101, which is just a breakdown of the universal requirements of all homebuyer programs and the basics of DPAs, affordable first mortgages, and mortgage credit certificates. So that's a good primer for DPAs in general. We have another one that is dedicated to Down Payment Connect, whether you have it through one of these MLS partners or you subscribe to the paid version. That's all about marketing creativity, looking at examples of Down Payment Connect used on websites, social media, email marketing, and so forth. And then, of course, this one where we tackle the issues like this today. And then, of course, you can always go to the DPA providers. A lot of them have training, they have content, they have materials ready for you. And agents, again, your loan officer is always a valuable resource. If they're doing DPAs, they'll know the programs. They're always a valuable resource for DPA information.
Thanks, Sean. Another kind of theme that I saw in the beginning when you were talking about homebuyer education is where to find those courses or how to find those courses. I've tried to answer a few questions kind of one-on-one, but if you don't mind reviewing that as well.
Yeah, sure. So as with finding loan officers, if you do a search at downpaymentresource.com, if you get a Down Payment Connect lead, that will include links to details of the programs. If you are using Down Payment Resource within your MLS, that will include links to details of programs, all of which include at the top of that list, participating lenders, and then who are the homebuyer education providers. Those are among the first few things we show you for any program, whether it's on downpaymentresource.com or you got a lead from Down Payment Connect, or you're a realtor who's got Down Payment Resource integrated into your MLS. That data is available to you. Links to the program provider's website and guidelines and requirements for homebuyer education, as well as how to meet them. So where's the online class, or where's the in-person class, and what's the schedule, and so forth. Mel, maybe one or two more questions, and then we'll let everybody go here.
Yep. One more for me is we've had a couple of questions about whether the homebuyer has to be a U.S. citizen to qualify for DPA programs.
There are some programs, and you really do need to be in communication with the loan officer and or the DPA provider. There are some programs out there that do not require citizenship. We've recently seen an ITIN program launched, or it's launching soon in the Northwest. That's not universal, but I can't really predict what trend to expect, but there are some. I would say at that level of detail really needs to be discussed with your loan officer or the DPA providers in your market.
Okay, thanks, Sean. That's really, I think, the themes that I've seen. There's definitely more questions coming through, and so we will try to get those at the info address, but that's all I have unless Veronica has something to add.
Nope, I think you covered it.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining. I've gone back to our contact information on the screen here. We will get you this recording by tomorrow. And if you need anything in the meantime, you can reach out to us at info@downpaymentresource.com. And in the meantime, we hope this was helpful. Get out there and help those buyers win bids. Loan officers, agents are looking for you. If you do DPAs, go let them know. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.